Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Tavern. We have another spine-tingling monster story to tell you, and it has literally been one of the most complicated myths I've ever gone through, primarily because it's from the Philippines, a country made up of over 7,000 islands, with about 2,000 or so of them occupied by humans. Legends and myths kind of get changed island to island to island to island. Now, I'm not going to tell you 2,000 different versions of the story, but I will tell you the versions that seem to be the most popular. The most popular myths and legends of this monster come from Mindanao, Visayas, and Luzon. So we're kind of working off of those stories as best I can. The Aswang has no solid description for a couple reasons. One, it's a shapeshifter, so it has a lot of different looks. Two, again, region differences describe the Aswang as different things. The most popular descriptions of this monster are the first, the more vampiric traditional version. This version looks like a human during the day, except for sometimes will have red eyes, oftentimes is a woman, usually very beautiful, regardless of whether she looks young or old, with long black hair, oftentimes using the hair to cover her bloodshot eyes. During the night, she will reveal her long, proboscis-like tongue that is used to drink the blood of anyone foolish enough to be alone at night, or consume the baby inside of a pregnant woman. In addition to that, they sometimes will marry humans to blend into society, or function as nannies or midwives, things along those lines, where they can blend into regular society, leave the home at night, go and do their killings, come back and pretend to be a normal, happy housewife. They also can turn their significant others and other family members into Aswangs just by spending time around them. No biting on the neck like a regular vampire, although some legends say they need to actually breathe their breath or literally have a baby chicken go from their mouth into the mouth of the intended recipient of the Aswang curse, powers, whatever. So there's a lot of different ways they can do that, but the just hanging out with someone is kind of creepy because it's just, hey, that's my friend. Oh man, I really want to drink blood and eat babies. The second major type is the anamorph type. This one usually is described more masculine, but not always, seeming to be a very nondescript person, oftentimes a peddler or a traveler or someone who's wandering around or lost in the woods that can also transform into an animal. These animals include, but are not limited to, human-sized birds, big black dogs, black cats, Siamese cats, wild boars, and of course, traditional bats, or traditional by Western vampire standards. They will essentially track you down in this animal form, revert to their humanoid form, and eat your blood and flesh. Usually these types of creatures like to grab people on the outskirts of town, those foolish enough to wander forests alone, or those taking long journeys who aren't properly protecting themselves at night. The final form is closer to like a ghoul or a cannibalistic monster. These beasts usually hide in the shadows, live near cemeteries, and will either exhume graves and eat the corpses, or find those who died along the road and consume them. They primarily feast on the carrion of humans, which is creepy, but at least, unlike the first two forms, not supremely dangerous. You know, unless you're a corpse, then I guess it's really dangerous for you, but you're a corpse, so, you know. Also, in certain legends, the Aswang can replace the body of a victim with something made out of wood or out of plant materials. Obviously, this would play more towards the eaters of the dead, or possibly the death of a child because of how a miscarriage or stillborn child looks. If you intend to protect yourself from an Aswang, there are many, many traditions. First, we have the more traditional by a Western standard, holy symbols, crosses, rosaries, holy water, But there's also the Filipino variant of having an amulet made for you by a traditional Filipino mystic. In addition to that, there are certain spices that can protect you as well. These include salt, garlic, and ginger, all of which are used in traditional Filipino cooking. So make yourself a tasty meal and drive the aswang away. Then there's some of the odder traditions. For the houses that were built raised up, they have a tradition where you put a ladder against a tree or a wall so that the aswang will go climb up that ladder instead of climbing up the ladder to your house. Which, sure, I guess, but when they got to the top of that ladder and realized they were in a tree or on a wall, wouldn't they go and go, that's weird, there's no house here. I better climb down this and find a different ladder to climb up so I can find people to feast on. Or do they just stay at the top of the ladder, just confused, waiting for daybreak, and you just wake up in the morning and go, what's that guy doing on my ladder? Just trying to find a house. Kill him! Burn him! Stake him! Decapitate him! He is an aswang! I understand how it would distract them for a little while, but I don't think after a certain point they just figure out that the ladder to your house is the proper ladder. In addition to that, there are traditions that say that when women were giving birth, men would take a weapon, usually a spear or a sword, stand in front of the house and basically flourish the weapon around, ready for any aswang that might be coming in looking for a snack. Or traditions that say that they would sometimes put bolas or small knives or other types of things in between the cracks of their bamboo housing for the islands that used bamboo housing, because those would keep the aswang from getting in. Lots of different traditions, like I said. If you intend to kill an aswang, good news. They aren't that hard to kill. I mean, they're super strong and fast and stuff. You can stab them through the heart, you can decapitate them, you can light them on fire, you can throw the various magical herbs in their face, you can kill them with prayer, holy water. They're relatively vulnerable. The trick is actually catching one and taking it down. In order to track a aswang, in case that's what you want to do, there is a special type of oil that can be made by traditional Filipino mystics. It is a coconut oil that is produced via a specific ritual that when you get close to an aswang will start boiling. So there is the ability to hunt them if you would so choose, or warn yourself if you're living at home with a wife who is pregnant. Another way that you can spot someone as an aswang is, of course, to look into their eyes deeply, and the reflection of yourself will be upside down inside their eye, which is actually pretty cool if you think about it. Most monsters don't have an interesting way like that to be discovered. The aswang has had a huge impact on Filipino culture, and even with the initial Spanish explorers who arrived there, had in many accounts stories of people telling them about the aswang. And that as early as the 1500s, the Spanish were making many notes about these creatures and trying to avoid them. The fact that the travelers to this land got worried about the aswang based on how important and how deeply entrenched the legend of these creatures is tells you a lot about how much impact they've had on the culture of the Philippines. And while they still show up quite a bit in pop culture, there are, to this day, sightings and attempts to take down aswang that are attacking various towns. Now, whether this is some actual disease or wild animal or an actual aswang, that is for you to decide. I'm not here to make judgments one way or the other, merely telling you what I've learned. Finally, like many myths, there's always the scientific way of trying to answer this. And the scientific answer is kind of a two-part thing. The first comes in the form of various animals that are native to the Philippines, specifically specific types of bats and the flying lemur, both of whom make a tick-tick noise as kind of their call. And it is believed that if a aswang is closing in on you, you'll hear a tick-tick noise or walk-walk noise, because tick-tick and walk-walk are two of the variants based on the noise they make. But that could just as easily be those animals and you're getting paranoid. At least that's what science would tell you. In addition to that, unfortunately, there is a tendency for a genetic disorder called dystonia. Dystonia diseases, there are multiple, essentially cause your muscles to act in weird ways, and you cannot control them, usually causing the twisting of limbs, involuntary twitching, things like that. It can also affect the face and what have you. And if it causes your tongue to just hang out, well, that could get people to start believing that you are an Aswang and that tongue is going to attack someone you care about very soon. It is unfortunate that there probably have been Aswang sightings that are completely based off of a genetic disorder, a disorder that does have some treatments and various therapies that can help. Not only is there probably limited access to those medicines, but when you have a traditional belief that says this person is a monster, well, they might not get the treatments they need. And that's rather unfortunate if true. I only saw one place that was really making a commentary about that. So hard to say, but it is an actual disorder that does show up in the Philippines from time to time. So it could have an influence on the public perception of the Aswang. It was fun doing a Filipino legend, primarily because I've kind of explored them a little bit via watching one of the Shake, Rattle, and Roll movies, and of course through watching Trece, which I did a review for. And if you haven't checked that out, please check it out. It's in the description below. It's a really fun review. It's a cool series. And I won't tell you what I said, but I think you got the idea from just hearing how I'm talking about it, that I did like it. But watch the review anyways to get a better taste of what Tracy is, and if it's a show you'll enjoy. Halloween is just around the corner. And of course, I'm going to be doing a video on how Halloween started, because I love doing my videos based on holidays. Until next time, thank you for watching, and I'll see you at the tavern.